Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Live Beyond Average podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Miller. Super excited to be on with you guys today. This is episode 195, and we're getting it going again. It's been 2 years since I've recorded the last podcast. I went and looked back. It was August of 2022. We're in September of 2024. So just over 2 years, we're ready to go again. You guys, I'm really excited to do a relaunch of the Live Beyond Average podcast. We're relaunching it, rebranding it to the Life Overflowing with Discovery. And that's really where I've been at the last 2 years. I really felt the need to be quiet and go on this journey of self-discovery on the past 2 years. And sometimes we get into that. I really think about where I have been since 2011, since getting out of college and starting my own business, working full-time while starting my own business, filming and producing a TV show for 8 years with my brother, and it just was a lot. And so as I sat back and reflected that, I was just feeling so wore out, so tired, and so empty with a lot of things. I needed to go on this journey of self-discovery, knowing that there was more out there. And it's been a fun journey, but I feel like I'm really receiving the grace now to be able to start talking with you again, to start sharing, and to really start diving in together on all of these things that create an overflowing life of discovery. And so I really got to where I was giving out of a half-filled cup much of the time at the end of 2022. And I look back at the previous couple years and I'm like, man, I'm really always giving out of a half-filled cup. My own cup isn't even filled to the brim, let alone overflowing. And I really wanted to get to this point of giving into the relationships that I have, giving into people only from an abundance of overflow. And there was multiple times over the last couple of years where I really thought it was time to go. And I would go to start something and I would just get my butt sat back down. And I just couldn't start. I'd come up with some ideas, whether it's business ideas and things like that. And I'd go to start and I'd get all amped up and excited about it like I always do. And I would just get my butt sat back down again. And so I knew that I was listening to these things and I was being very intentional with these things of, okay, it's not time. I can't do these things that I'm not being demonstrated and shown to actually go do. I can't continue to do that. I actually have to listen and be instructed on when it's time to do certain things. And now is finally that time. I've been feeling this way for the last month or two and really been leaning into what that is. And this was just coming back as an avenue and a way to be able to share and to do it in just a real authentic way with no filters, with no holding back punches, and really just being myself within this and be able to serve people in a greater capacity back through this podcast, because I know the impact it had over the years that we did this, over the first 194 episodes we did from 2018 to 2022. And so I really want to be giving not only to the listeners here and the viewers from an overflowed cup, but that really started with being able to give into my own family from an abundance of overflow, be given into myself from an abundance of overflow, to the people that are closest to me, to be receiving the best of me, and for me to receive the best of me that is possible, let alone be able to start talking. And so really on my socials the last couple of years have really just coasted, and I'm excited to be able to start putting out a higher value piece of content for everybody again as we're just going into this. And as we're giving at it, I talk about that abundance of overflow instead of that cup half filled or a half empty cup, depending on how you look at things. That's an ongoing discovery process. It's not like, okay, I get to this point of overflow and I'm done. No, it's a continual seeking. It's a continual journey of discovering to remain in that place. But we can get into this piece where once we get into that piece, we can enter this rest that helps us stay into that piece. A lot of you guys know that I started my supplement company back in 2019. I called it Seeker. I named my company Seeker. And I had to really go back and dive into that of like, why did I do that? What are the hidden pieces in there that I named it that I didn't even know why I named it that? And part of that piece was really big as I'm going back into this is the seeking actually helps us remain in that overflow. Us being seekers for discovery and discovering the more helps us remain in that overflow. And so I'm really excited to, in the past, I would give a lot of step-by-step practical pieces for you guys to go do to live a life beyond average. All of those things are good and right, and there'll probably be times that I do that again, but I'm really excited to push that even further and not always give this, hey, step 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to point A, B, and C, but really learning the discovery process is that for you, there might not be a step-by-step process, but a learning how to be you again and remembering who you actually are piece. So I'm really excited for all of us to dive into that. We're going to be talking all things pertaining living beyond average. We're going to talk about health and fitness, entrepreneurship, relationships, stories of my business, stories of relationship, failures and wins. You guys, adventure. We're going to be talking about adventure because that's part of discovery. There's no limits here. That's what I'm excited about, is that we don't just have to talk about hunting. We don't just have to talk about nutrition and health and fitness. All of these things move us into a life beyond average. I want to talk about these things that help us discover more and that we can have a life of overflowing discovery. We're going to focus on what we want to become and who we actually are on this podcast. Because what we focus on is what we become. And that goes for both senses. That can be if we're focused on positive things, if we're focused on the things that we desire, that's the way we move. But if we also focus on negative things, we focus on things that always frustrate us and make us mad, it's interesting how we also become those things when we do that as well. And so the goal here is to always remain into moving into that positive way. And I've given this a lot of thought on even how I produce content in the past, right? Like I have tons of clients that I work with, and one of the ways of selling is by touching on pain points of people. It's a real thing. I mean, hey, what are you struggling with? That's something we all need to think about. But there's also a new way of doing things, I believe, that are just morphing the culture of who you want to become versus what you're struggling with. And so if we always continue to think about, man, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I'm struggling with, we continue to struggle with it versus this is where I want to be, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing to go there. It's just a slight shift in consciousness. It's just a slight shift in our focus and vision that help us to become and be who we actually are. And so that is something that I really want to just continue on that path and that journey on this path together on this podcast. I'm excited for the conversations. I'm going to be doing a lot of these, I'm sure, solo like this because just my schedule. I'm able to sit down a lot of times when I'm having some thoughts, or I'm able to just flip the phone on. Not all these I'm going to be recording right here in my basement corner with a nice camera. Sometimes I'm just going to flip my phone on. Sometimes I'm not even going to flip the video recording on, and I'm just going to audio record some of these. So I'm not going to put an expectation on myself that every one of these has to be recorded in 4K and doing it on the mic here on my computer. So I really want to have more freedom with that and just grant that grace to myself to be able to, hey, if there's a deep thought, let's talk about it. Even if it's a 3-minute podcast, even if it's an hour podcast. I'm excited for some of the new conversations with friends that I'm going to do that maybe were on here way back in the past in the early days and go over the growth and the discovery in their lives as well, because people change. We grow, we adjust, we morph, we become. And it's going to be fun to just see all that and talk about some of those subjects of how some of our ideals have adjusted, some of the way our point of views, our viewpoints, where we sit and where we stand, and how we view the world, how those things have adjusted over time. That's the exciting piece of discovery, you guys, is we just start discovering more, because we can't sit in a set place of ideals where we think we have it figured out and become very dogmatic in those ways. We have to continue to grow and see from new points of view so we can capture and see more. We can pan out and get a greater view of the things, and that helps us become more of our true self. The journey is fun. I absolutely love it. And that's why that live beyond average, that mantra, has stuck with me for so many years. I'd have to go back and see what year that was, but I think it was season 2 or season 3 of us filming Run to Gun TV. So that season 2 or 3 would have been like 2015 or 16. So I think when we had that mantra, we were doing a mantra every year. So I think it was season 3. But we did a mantra the first 2 years of the show, and then we came up with this mantra, and it got to season 4, and I'm like, I don't want a different mantra for the show. Like, this is it. Like, this is the culmination of the show, Living Beyond Average. And that's just something that has stuck with us since that time frame of around 2015, 2016-ish. And it's been good. It spoke to me. It spoke into others. And I'm excited for this new journey together as we're moving into a new season. I suppose if you wanted to go by seasons and look back to the years, we'd be on this would be like season 6. If you wanted to break it down into seasons of the Live Beyond Average podcast. But I don't do that. It's too confusing. So episode 195, we're rocking right now. You guys, I'm excited to be diving into this and not just film podcasts and always move on from it quickly, but to film it, to record it, and then continue to take some pieces out of it and go deeper with it. I feel like a lot of times we receive a message, or we listen to a message, or we listen to a podcast, and it kind of like lightly penetrates our hearts and like, oh yeah, that spoke to me. But then we move on to the next one so quickly. And I really want to, hey, we have this 10-minute talk, this 15-minute talk, and then we can compound on that in more podcasts, in just little pieces of content from that. And we can actually start to have a message that penetrates our heart in a deeper way that actually starts to cause transformation and change within our lives, which then causes a transformation and change in those that live their life around us, or those that we come in contact with. I'm excited. This is going to be good, you guys. Thanks for tuning in today. We're going to be doing a lot more of these. We're diving in as of right now. That's what I'm feeling right now. I like to live this now unforced, and doing things that I only see myself that I'm supposed to be doing. And so right now, this is what I'm feeling I'm supposed to be doing, so we're going to do it. You guys have a great rest of your day. I'm super excited to be jumping on again with you shortly. Thanks for taking the time. Kick butt today and live beyond average.